The lab gave me news.
My wife found out I was using morning mimosa to control her mind. Marriage, it's a real tightrope. All of it. Project Toilet Cam has been compromised. We need to eliminate Francine Smith. This bank of monitors reminds me of the Brady Bunch, except all these people. Let's keep it simple. Kill Francine on 3. 1, 2. Stop! Leave my wife alone! For the last time, I wasn't racing you, and I clearly passed the mailbox first. Sir, please, Smith, I don't want to go to war with you and your goons. This is between me and the woman who uncovered Project Toilet Cam. Compromising photos of people on the toilet are the greatest asset we have. What's the most embarrassing thing you don't want anyone to see? You leave my children out of this. Remember the time you ate poached salmon from an amateur? Delete that! I'll do anything you want! This is why I'm not worried about ISIS. What a day.
Tell me about it. I don't even know where the hell I am.
Looter!
Self-defense?
A black and a white talking as if it's normal!
Peter, what are you doing? You know me!
Everybody shut up and let me think! Just let me think!
Stan, have you?
Sometimes Facebook sucks.
Oh man, classic American dad.
Senior Center. We can get help there.
We've got an 88 Skylark. That is. Which means you'll be having sex with Martin.
What exactly is happening here?
We're swapping partners and effing. You want in? Just so you know, nothing really works down there anymore, so we just kind of smoosh everything together.
Good God! What the is going on in this neighborhood?
Prepare and die!
Say no more!
Steve, the keys!
Oh God, Rico!
Let's try that one. It's a Buick. I need keys to a Buick.
They're all Buick!
Hurry, Steve!
Try these!
Monster! We ain't gonna die!
We gonna live forever! Why are we stopped on the train tracks?
She must have shot the entrance!
Woo!
Got one.
Oh, thank God. A police station.
Hello guys, welcome back to another video on my YouTube channel. Today we are learn about how to earn money online and with selling the digital product in 2023. Okay, and let's start this video. Learning how to sell digital product in 2026 in a way what actually works. Guide walk you through for the process with clear steps, example, useful tools and tips. Okay, and start.
Heck no.
There's no doubt about it. More and more people are diving into selling digital content online and driven a world that keeps reshaping how we work, learn, and shop. According to several e-commerce sellers, staggering $8 a trillion, $8 trillion in just 2 years. That means now the time to
How much of early religion is really decided by who won the fight?
All of it. The world of West esotericism has been a world greatly diminished, hunted, repressed, suppressed. Books have been banned and burned. We have let those in power tell us a lie, and that lie has robbed us of some of the most important spiritual technologies of what it is to be human. So we have Hermeticism, Kabbalah, the occult, witchcraft, Gnosticism. What brings them all together is they've all been rejected. Not just rejected, but suppressed.
You brought some books with you.
Yeah.
What is that?
This book was actively targeted for destruction by the church. It survived unimaginable things. You know, that women are being initiated into these mysteries. But there's a long history of the feminine as derivative, as somehow less than. And that has just had catastrophic consequences. I'll give you one example of this. Between 40 and 60,000 people, mostly women, were executed. In the 15th century,
Wild, man.
this is what happens when conspiracy theories get political power and impunity. And now we're just repeating the same mistakes. But I think that we're going to see more spiritual creativity in the next century than maybe in the last 5 centuries combined. The books are real. We can translate them. And we're now unlocking their secrets. Let's do it. Yeah.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the No This No podcast. Our guest today is the mind behind the channel Esoterica on YouTube and community with over 1 million subscribers. He is one of the most grounded voices I could find to take us into the mystical, into the Gnostic, into the hidden corners of religion without what we often find collapsing into infinite skepticism or collapsing into belief. He's a trained scholar of philosophy and Western esotericism. Dr. Justin Sledge, thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you, Andre. It's very kind of you to invite me and very kind words, and looking forward to our conversation.
I am so excited to dive in and just learn from you. I think you're such a incredible mind, and I feel the passion through all the videos that you record, how much you actually love the topic. And we'll dive into the witch trials, ancient Kabbalah, mysticism, Gnosticism, how religion and early mystics have the story and narratives have been shaped throughout history. But where I want to really start, because I feel like we can set the stage really well for individuals, and also what I've just been exploring personally is how to even approach these topics in a way that is actually fruitful. How does reason and logic come into the picture exploring something inherent? When you call yourself a skeptic, you don't mean what most people mean when they say that word online. So how would you define that term? How it relates to you?
Yeah, skepticism in the classical sense of the word doesn't mean disbelieving in things. It certainly doesn't mean going out there and trying to disprove what people believe. It's a very petulant way of existing, honestly. But skepticism in the classical tradition simply means withholding judgment. It simply means take a look at the data, take a look at the history, take a look at the books, take a look at the arguments, and say, you know what, I just don't know. And it's okay for me not to know. And these arguments are compelling in some ways, strange in others. And so that my task as a scholar is not to come down on one side of the fence about whether this stuff is true or not. My job is to bracket my own desires to know that kind of thing. And so we say, this is what we have. And if that's what we have, that's it. And so skepticism, for me, means just simply withholding judgment. And when I can practice that, and when I do it hopefully well, it means that the text can speak for these are the world of West esotericism has been a world greatly diminished, hunted, repressed, suppressed. Books have been banned and burned. And at this juncture in history, I get to be one of the voices through which this material gets to live. And it's very important for me to lift up their voice and put my voice back behind it. And that part of that process is that skeptical process, just withholding can come through.
I feel you hold that responsibility with reverence and importance, and you understand the weight that you have. That way you define skepticism, is that referring to like epoche, how you use that word?
Yeah, okay, it's sort of the, you know, that movie bracket, right? So in phenomenology, it's bracketing, but yeah, it's bracketing my own personal beliefs and how those personal beliefs can impose. It makes me the main character, and I don't want to be the main character. I want the material that I study to be the main character, and the work I do as a esoteric or my academic work. I want the Cornelius Agrippa or the Kabbalah or the alchemists or whatever. I want them to be the star of the show. And that epoche gives me the chance to take a step back. And I feel like we need less main character syndrome in the world. So like we could all do with a few less main characters in our lives. And I certainly don't want to be the main character in this story.
Yeah, to say the least. It feels like it's interesting though, because there is this tension. What really draws people originally into exploring religious, philosophical, mystical inquiry is usually some sort of meaning making in life, right? And so you're almost like looking for an answer, which when you're looking for an answer, you can find and make an answer out of something that maybe isn't in the way that historians or the mystic have quoted to have said the thing that is enticing for you. As we dive into this whole conversation, is there any other words you have on how to discern without swallowing belief wholesale, or again just retreating into continual skepticism that almost is like a death to curiosity?
I think the main way that I approach it is by letting the texts, which are frankly often very bewildering, just letting them be bewildering. There's growth begins in awe, and I think it pushes us. You know, I judge you because of your political beliefs, or I judge you because of the way you dress, or this is a very judgy world that we built for ourselves. And for me, that's just not going to work, because who am I, a 21st century person, to step back into a medieval woman's mind and to judge what she experienced? I can't do that. I don't want to do that. So it's to sit with the text, let the text begin to get out of this world of the text needs to mean something specific. There's a dogma to be recovered. There's the one meaning. And if I just get that one meaning, then I'll know the secret tools to happiness are from this tradition. I know which direction to run.
Yeah. Not towards them. It's interesting because maybe we could set the stage. How would you describe to somebody entering into this world the difference in your conception between religion, Gnosticism, and mysticism? How are those fundamentally different?
I would say that usually is these marginalized, marginal voices where the institution says, look, there should be certain kinds of ways that you experience God, for instance. And they're like, well, I've experienced God that way. And you're not going to tell me that I'm crazy or bad. You know, so it's the people on the outside of that, or it's the voices that just lost. You know, the Gnostics of antiquity. Ultimately, they lost when Christianity became an imperial religion, and their voices were suppressed. And to me, it's about recovering those suppressed voices, that rejected knowledge, and one, making it accessible to people, because I think there are many people out there that are craving alternative ways into spirituality, alternative ways into religion, alternative ways into philosophy. These are very meaningful systems for them. So it's about, for me, it's a question of accessibility. How do I grab the two hands and get them holding hands again? And two, it's about lifting up those suppressed voices, because I think that whether I believe there's fundamental truth in what they were up to or not, it's completely irrelevant. I think there's important things in there. And I think it's wise to say, just because something doesn't speak to me, and just because I don't recognize something as true, my tradition is Judaism, just because I'm looking at Hildegard of Bingen, famous mystic, just because I'm not Christian, my job is to lift that up, whether it's Paracelsus or Hildegard or John Dee or the Gnostics or Hermeticism or what have you. I don't have to keep myself to any of it. What I do have to keep myself to is radical accessibility through education and lifting their voices up as important, regardless of what I think they're right or whatever.
What I appreciate in this conversation, I would like to define the terms, not presuming everybody listening, tuning in knows and has the same understanding of what they mean. maybe we can just start with Gnostics and the Gnosticism. Etymologically, what does that word refer to? And yeah, I would love to hear from you.
Yeah, so Gnostics is a troubled history here, right? A lot of these words are invented by the opponents of the very people they're describing. So, for instance, the Gnostics never called themselves that, not as far as we can tell. Irenaeus, a 2nd century church father, who said, oh, they're the so-called Gnostics. They're so-called Gnostics, and we just cut off the so-called and group them all as Gnostics. But the word comes from the Greek just meaning to know, right? And there was a kind of debate in early Christianity about exactly how some early Christians really emphasized pistis, faith, trust. Some early Christians really emphasized gnosis, knowledge. And those two became one of many Christianities. There was never just a Christianity, they're all Christianities. And the Gnostics, again, the term that I don't think they would have used, they embrace the idea that what fundamentally is salvific about what Jesus did and what Christ did was to reveal the truth about reality. And the truth about reality is that all of this is a prison. This is all a cosmic prison built by. And what's true is that Christ has sort of come in as a kind of secret agent, revealed the truth about the falseness of this world, such that the divine spark within us can be returned back to the realm of divinity, the realm of the fullness, that says, no, the physical world is a prison, an evil God, the true God is a hidden God, and Jesus has come to reveal that truth. And so much of the so-called Gnostic literature is wrapped up in, here's the way the universe really is. And this is here are the various archons, the prison wardens that keep you here. And here's how the Garden of Eden was a trap. It was meant to trap you in the world of physical pleasure. And it was actually good that we got tricked. The snake was actually the good God. Because he got us out of there. And at least now we're out, stuck in the Garden of Eden, the Garden of Delight. We can realize that, oh, I'm hurting. My body's in pain. I'm getting older, like I can feel that the flesh is bad. And that's at least sort of a prompt for us to get out. And what we're very lucky about with these so-called Gnostics is in the 1940s, we discovered a huge cache of their books that otherwise we only knew through their enemies. And we're very lucky. It's called the Nag Hammadi Library, and the Nag Hammadi Library contains dozens of otherwise secret teachings from these sects. So we're incredibly lucky.
That was in what, the 1960s, 50s?
So we found Nag Hammadi in the 1940s, or 1940s. So Nag Hammadi was discovered in the mid-20th century. So we have Nag Hammadi and the Dead Sea Scrolls, which were two big discoveries of the 20th century, both of which gave us insight into the sort of the world that eventually produced Christianity as we know it, Judaism as we know it, and it's just we're incredibly lucky to be living in the time we live because there are scholars alive who lived before that, and all of a sudden now we have all this information about the Gospel of Thomas and the Apocrypha of John and all this other literature that are Christianities, and one of them ultimately triumphed, but just because you win. And getting out of an empire doesn't make you godly, it just makes you powerful. And so these other Christianities, they were just as much Christians as anyone else. They were suppressed. They're not because I think they're right. God, of course, in that race, but their voices deserve to be heard.
It's so baffling that almost 2 millennia after a lot of these texts were written or described about events that were occurring and individuals that were living in a new light. And I've heard you refer to framework for like the 4 qualities of mystical experiences. What are those qualities? Can you recall the 4 qualities and the varieties of religious experiences?
James, I think, yeah, it's noetic, transient. I feel like William James, they're noetic, they're transient.
Ineffability, transience.
Philosophers who are going to attempt to induce them. And the so-called occult philosophy. So, yeah, so what William James argues is that they're noetic, which is to say they have intellectual content. They're not always noetic, but they can be noetic. And they can be noetic in a way that is propositional. So you can have an experience, it has intellectual content. You can say something like, well, the universe is all fundamentally one thing. So very common mystical experience to unity. They're passive. it's like you can sit down and go, okay, now it's time to have a mystical experience. And it doesn't work like that. You have to meditate, and sometimes you get that kapsu moment where you're hit with it, but you can't really induce it typically. They're transient, they don't last forever. Mystical experiences typically, they can happen just a blink of an eye. The most famous example is Jakob Böhme, a cobbler, simple cobbler, shoemaker, saw God and all the universe on a piece of polished silver pewter, and based an entire mystical experience system on this one piece of polished pewter. So you never know where it's going to come from, but he couldn't have manifested that. They often say that you can't ever grasp in words completely what you experience, but that never stops mystics. Mystics, if you've ever read any of the famous mystics, they will throw a pile of words, volumes and volumes and volumes, trying to get at the thing that they experienced. And they will always have to link it to you, that usually with St. Thomas Aquinas, who after, if you've ever read the massive works of Thomas Aquinas, he had a mystical experience toward the end of his life, and famously said, everything I've written is straw compared to what I saw. It's just, he's one of the greatest philosophers and theologians in Western history. So in that way, they're ineffable. You can't put into words exactly what it is that you experience. So these are the qualities that James lays out, and I think that's a useful typography. I don't think, for instance, that all mystical experiences in history are noetic. Some of them are emotional. There's no intellectual content at all. You're just feeling something. Some of them are noetic without being propositional. And notice this is odd, because noesis typically involves propositional statements, like all is one, or something like that. There's a propositional statement which can be true or false. But inevitability goes against that, because inevitability means, by definition, you can't put it into words. And so I think what's nice about the Jamesian typology is it captures what we often notice in mystical experiences, which is some high degree of paradox. And you see it in texts like the Sefer Zohar, the foundational text of the Kabbalah. They'll use examples when they'll call God the shining darkness. So they're trying to break your brain. They're trying to break your consciousness. And they're like, look, whatever you think this thing is, it's not that, right? And so we use a phrase like the shining darkness. You're like, what exactly is it supposed to be doing? They're trying to get you to realize that there's something paradoxical about these experiences. And I think that at the heart of the Jamesian typology, there's a lovely kind of paradox where noesis meets ineffability. And that's just like putting two magnets together that want to go together. Yeah. So in that way, it's a nice manifestation of the paradoxical nature of mysticism at the very heart of the very typology of mysticism itself. So in that way, it's quite poetic.
So individuals who have mystical experiences typically report back not just they encountered something that was just true for them, but something that was fundamentally true about the nature of reality and true and self-evident in my experience. There's obviously some problems with that. It's happening inside of me. You can't really see that from the external end. You could examine the fruits that come from that and make your own judgment on that. But what do you make of that reoccurrence that throughout millennia we've had so many different mystics that have had these experiences that make fundamental unicity? Obviously, there's a lot of people that have come with different theories that are built on top of that in terms of dual aspect monism. So what do you make of that recurrence from the various different mystics throughout the ages?
Well, what all mystics share in common is that we all have the same brain, basically. So it's unsurprising that given the fact that we all have the same brain, we're going to get similar kinds of experiences just of the world in general. We're sharing pretty similar, and probably not identical, but pretty similar experience of being in this room. And unsurprisingly, mystics share some degree of similarities. Now, what's interesting is that there's not uniformity across the mystical tradition. So some mystics will posit a kind of fundamental unity about the world. The Gnostics posited a fundamental duality about the world. Now, both of these can't be true, And importantly also is that there's no mystics who exist outside of culture. They're always existing with their backdrop, with their own cultural or religious backdrop. For instance, a medieval Christian mystic isn't probably going to see a vision of Krishna, right? It's just not their cultural backdrop. A Vedanta mystic isn't going to see a vision of quasi-propositional data. we might call it sort of the more pure propositional philosophical data that emerges from mysticism is always against that. Many people are somewhat shocked by is that I think of someone mystic like Bernard Clairvaux, the most important love mystic in the Western tradition. He was enthusiastic about the Second Crusade. And he was like, yeah, love God and love everybody, but kill the infidels. And we look at that and go, that really is a jarring juxtaposition. Or, God is love, and we experience God and seeing love in another human being's face, and they all have to die. And you're just like, it's like, of course, because he's living in the background of the cultural background of Christianity at that time. So unsurprisingly, he has these sort of what strike us as very shocking things. So I think what's important is that, again, analysis. When you get into a high-resolution analysis of them, it turns out they don't agree with each other at all. Or very rarely do we get like a high degree of uniformity across mystical lines. And that's not surprising because, like you said before, that as you draw not really studying them very deeply. And I think that's a lost opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to the many individuals who have said something approximating the mature intellect as the ability to hold paradox simultaneously or two opposing ideas. This podcast with bringing humility, or really what I feel is just like basic human dignity and decency to not lie about what you think you know, to not say something you don't actually know. And it's incredibly enticing to believe the mystical accounts and create your own beliefs around them. And again, we have that fundamental sort of these individuals that have experiences that are fundamentally perhaps incompatible with language in the way that we use. That's something that is tough to wrestle with sometimes because we want to make sense, and the way we do so is through reason and logic and linguistics. Any other thoughts you have there?
Yeah, this is an interesting thing where on the one hand, the mystics are pretty committed to the idea that what they've experienced is fundamentally extra propositional, which is, from a philosophical point of view, in my philosophical training, it's always struck me as strange that philosophers are of the extremely arrogant belief that all truths are propositional. It's just hubris to think that.
It's propositional meaning.
That propositional meaning that you can put it into a sentence, and the sentence is like true and false, and all truths are sentenceable propositions, and they can be diagnosed and evaluated through logic. That just seems silly to me, right? Of course, logic is powerful, and we can do right. And if they're making arguments, they're trying to convince you of something, they're trying to communicate something to you. And arguments together logically, if you go read, especially early Buddhist texts, they're very carefully constructing long series of categories by which to understand the nature of consciousness. And this is clearly logical in a very strong sense of the word. So I think that we have to take them seriously on two fronts, and that's you seriously at the argument that you're making. And one of the things that we've inherited mostly from the Enlightenment, which is as a child of the Enlightenment, I love the Enlightenment, but it comes to run off the rails, is this dichotomy between logic and mysticism, as if being rational and being mystical are to be juxtaposed. And you can only believe that if you've never read a mystic. And if you really get into reading the mystics, whether it's, again, all the way from some mystics like, my favorite mystic, Heidegger, the being mystic, 14th century mystic. He's a philosopher, but a mystic as well. And so was Descartes in a way. But they're doing both. And we should be willing to accept that they're doing both. And not probably a team. They didn't. And I feel like they didn't have to pick that, we don't have to do that either. And so again, this is a place where I feel very happy to put on my logic title as a reader, as a studier of this material, to force them into boxes, especially boxes that they didn't build for themselves, and especially boxes that are just modern biases that we've inherited, that aren't really useful for us and aren't scientific. They're not philosophically rich. They're just weird biases that we've picked up over the past couple centuries. And I think it's high time that philosophers, scientists, scholars of this material we get over ourselves and get over these categories, which aren't that helpful for understanding this material.
If quick share from something I genuinely love. This is I Am 8. I know it's very common to hear ads for so many different health products and supplements these days. I actually sought these guys out to partner with and have been drinking their products for a while. I think they're doing something genuinely different. I Am 8 Daily Ultimate Essentials Pro contains 90 nutrient-rich ingredients in one drink. It replaces about 16 separate supplements, vitamins, minerals, probiotics, clinical doses of CoQ10 and MSM, even saffron extract for focus and mood. It's co-founded by David Beckham, built with Yale researchers, and it's NSF certified for sport, so you know exactly what's going into your body. You just take one of these sachets, you tear it, you pour it, you mix it. It tastes delicious and it's actually doing your body favors. If you want to try it out, go to im8health.com/knowthyself and use code knowthyself for an additional 10% off, welcome kit, and 5 free sachets. That's im8health.com/knowthyself. I hope you enjoy. Back to the show. It makes me think of many things. Patanjali Sutras to the Vedantic philosophy and theory that make a whole lot of sense and map onto reality from my lens and from many in a really clean way. And yet there is this distinction, which I'd love to get your perspective on, between something being irrational versus non-rational. What is that?
Yeah, so I think that non-rational just means that we're not going to be able to put it into predicate calculus, which is symbolic logic, and do logic shopping and get a truth vector out of that. Those are non-rational things. We do this all the time. Bach's music is beautiful. It's a non-rational statement. Am I going to prove that to you? Yeah. Here's my deduction.
The love of
most
my child.
times, and yeah, I love my child, right? The view outside is nice. We live in a world of non-rational aesthetic experiences are always not rational. Everybody's totally fine with them until they get to the mystical realm and people get weirdly upset by it. And it's for the reasons that you said. It's because at that point you started saying things like, well, it's not that Bach is good music. It's that Bach should be good music for everybody. And that's a more dangerous claim, right? It's a more dangerous claim. Irrational things are simply things that involve logical contradictions. And if something involves a logical contradiction, and I know many people maybe watching will say, well, I really don't care about logical contradictions. Well, you just said you don't care about them, you're committed to the truth and not care about them. But it's because when you
do.
Yeah, you do, right? If you're not caring about logical contradictions, it ensures that you in fact do show that you care about logical contradictions. I think they've experienced the truth and they want to tell that truth. And things like paradoxes. Paradoxes are where words are used in sort of to show that language has a limit. And the thing I'm pointing to is beyond language. Paradoxes are an excellent way, practically, ritually, linguistically, to get you to look past the sentence and say, look, when I say that God is a shining darkness, what I'm trying to tell you is that whatever you think God is, God's not that, right? Whatever the Tao is not a Tao. So I think that this is places where we can show that philosophically, logically, that linguistically, the mystics are actually much more sophisticated than often we give them credit for. And they're certainly not non-rational. They're very interested in rationality, but a particular kind of rationality, and downstream of non-rational experiences. And again, non-rational experiences are just all day, every day. And most of our experiences are non-rational. And so I feel like this is a place where, again, it's when you go from a non-rational experience to universalizing the propositions that you derive from it, that's where you begin to get the worrisome stuff, like where Clervo saying, God is love, and we should kill the infidel. You're like, whoa, I need to see some getting us to some pretty frightening stuff. And again, it's like how he builds that out. And so one of the things that I've argued philosophically is that in their own beliefs and might allow themselves access to certain kind of propositions. I want it's a natural impulse for me to put you on my page. And I think that, again, if anyone's ever had a mystical experience, you really think you're right. Because it's transformed you, but probably don't get the moral wherewithal to have your life transformed and then demand that someone else transform their life because of your experience.
It's fascinating the moral judgments and claims that individuals with transpersonal experiences can create or that we can put on top of them, right? It's almost like we think that a mystical experience will absolve somebody of their priors and the culture in which they were born into and the personality structure that is happening within or coinciding with. And we know that people with religious fervor and certainty around ideas around the afterlife or bloodlines go on to do the most horrendous things throughout ages.
Yeah, no, it's, there's nothing more terrifying than Deus will. God wills it. When you speak for God and you've had the experience of God and God's spoken to you, and now theological impunity, it's a theological suspension of morality. Now it's whatever God wills is moral, and I am the instrument of God. And it's not really me. It's God working through me. And at that point, you've abdicated any personal responsibility. And we see it happen over and over again in history. It's happening right now, right? And it's those moments where, as a philosopher and as a skeptic, I just want to sit down with people who've had mystical experiences. Let's walk the line between what you've experienced, which is no doubt your own belief structures, your own, trying to understand yourself now in the context of wider mystical experiences, which is the thing I get a lot on my channel, is people have powerful mystical experiences on psychedelics, and various entheogens, meditation, and now they're bewildered and they're like, what do I do with myself? I can't go back to living my life the way that I would. So what do I do now? I'm like, well, one of the things that you can do is that an important part of what I want to be doing is giving people access to the accessibility to the history to show what you've experienced is profound. I'm not gonna say it's common, but other people have happened, and there are better and worse ways of navigating your life in the aftermath of those mystical experiences. Because what I wouldn't want someone to do is to collapse into nihilism and say, oh, my subjectivity is only just me, and therefore it has no universal bearing whatsoever. But nor do I want someone to go full tilt, crusader, and it's sort of, now it's like mystical imperialism.
Yeah.
I think that's I think both of those are dangerous impulses.
Yeah. My friend Peter has this great saying, there's none so self-righteous as the newly converted. And you see this throughout ages, and to be careful what you wish for. I've been in a lot of circles where people are like, and we see that divine revelation can quickly become distorted from the person perceiving their experience, because there's the way our ego works is so slippery. I see something or I saw something becomes I'm the one who saw the thing, and there's so many examples of just throughout history where that's gone terribly wrong. So that tangent all to say,
When he's in every, it's going to make you a liar. I think that if I had to throw a betting man, I would say they're probably non-rational, but right, the ineffable side is a non-rational side, and yet what flow from them are rational, propositional, noetic content. Right, so it's sort of both and this is where I think that, again, this is maybe a corrective that I've offered to some people. It's like, when you think the noetic quality is entitling you to mystical imperialism, remember the ineffable part. That you aren't the best judge of it, because what you experienced, even by your own admission, is beyond your understanding.
But so how then do you make sense of, even though there is a huge variance in these transpersonal subjective experiences, out of body, near death, entheogen produced, whether it's exogenously or endogenously created, some people, there is overlap from these archetypal realms and characters that people experience to deities that people encounter. I think it is an important note that you mentioned earlier, right? That somebody, a Christian awakening or revelation is not going to usually coincide with a visual of Krishna, but it does point to the ineffability of something. Maybe there is archetypal, or the words we use to describe the characters we see are always going to be informed with the language we have because of the culture in which we were raised. But there are energies perhaps in a more transcendent realm that people that are more walking in this dual path. And I feel like my job as somebody who just brings sincerity into the inquiry is not to collapse into belief or the skepticism which can quickly become dismissal of somebody's experience, which we should fully examine and not dismiss, because in many cases it's quite self-evident that there's a profound experience that's happened to them that transformed their health. Putting our profound, like Ramanujan with mathematical theorems, that apparently he encountered, and I'm curious when it comes to like the verifiability of these experiences, whether it's the MDEs or like I mentioned Ramanujan or